Rob Jam Webb here, and what I want to show you today is how to create a modern day Bleep Techno record. This track I made a while back, but I never got around to releasing. I made this as an inspiration and as a homage really to one of my favourite techno records of all time, which was called Indulge by Neal Howard, who came from Chicago in the late 80s. He released a couple of tracks, and this was his most famous one. It was licensed to Network Records in 1990 and was later sampled by Alternate as well for one of their tracks. But the original track is the track that inspired me to do this, and it's that kind of bleep techno sound that originated in the north of England and the Midlands as well, during that period of late 89, 1990 sort of times. So like LFO, Warp Records, Nexus 21, and various other artists from that kind of pre-hardcore sort of era before it went off into the hardcore and the bravey breakbeaty stuff. It was a lot more blippy and a lot more techno melodic sort of stuff. So this track is a homage to that sort of sound really, and I've done it in a modern way using a lot of all VSTs. And I wanted to show you how I did it, and the only part of it that isn't completely taken from the Neal Howard record is the pianos. I didn't use a piano which Neal Howard uses on his original. I took the inspiration with the blippy sounds and the M1 pads, which you'll hear in a minute. So I'm going to go through the track and then have a listen to it, and then you can start taking inspiration from this to add into your own track and create your own sort of bleep techno record. Here goes. Whilst I'm doing it, I'll go through the sounds while actually listening to it, show you where the source has come from. there you go. That's the general feel of the track. It's a classic sort of bleep sound. As I say, hugely inspired by Neal Howard's Indulge for me, which is a very special record anyway. It's always in my playlist and one of my all-time top 10 house and techno records of all time. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to whip through it and I'm going to show you how I made it and the simplicity of it and the effects of that simplicity. So I got a kick drum, put it straight into the drum rack, and rather than use it as an audio, I put it into MIDI and it just keeps its thump. And I didn't want to use a 909, I wanted to really fatten it up so that it punched through. So I used the real fat kick on that, and let's just get a little section where we're looped with all the drums. And I'm going to loop that here, like so, so it goes like so. So I got a really fat kick, and then I put some rides in. And what I did with the rides was I sidechained them. That's how they are, on top of the kicks. And then I sidechained them and put a sidechain mute on here so that the rides and the other thing that's sidechained, which is this sound, which is the pad later on, comes through as a sidechain, which you'll see later. So that's that, so they're the rides. And then I've got the rim shot, which if I just go over to this section, and there's your rim. It's just a little pattern, just, you know, no messing about, it's just straightforward. And we are next looking for, after that we've got, so I've got a straightforward rim there, and I've got some claps. Just nicely played in with a delay and a reverb on there, nothing special. And then I've got a little hi-hat snare, which is taken from the 909 drum machine in the Roland Cloud Pack, which is from there. That was that, and I put a crash in. And then I put a snare roll in here, which is MIDI. And that's just to when the track, you know, evolves into the next section. So that came from the built-in 909 drum rack. And I just put a sample snare on top of that. And then I've got a little percussion here, which is just a close hi-hat, just really, you know, fast and shaky sped up. So they're the beats basically, that's it. Nothing to it. And open hi-hats to swing it along. And there you go. So there's the beats, a very simple little pattern. And then on to the music. Okay, so what I did was for this track, I got a pad here, which is from the Z3TA, which you have to pay for this. It's a premium synth, but it's really worth getting. It's got some great generic sounds on there, but it's got loads and loads of banks. And it's good for techno and you know, trance especially. But there's a load of good sounds in there for house music as well, which is really worth getting. So I got this pad and I just went up to a high octave and I just played in two chords, which was the F major 7, so it's F, A, C, E, face, and then E minor 7, which is G, B, D, E. It's just those two chords all the way through. And I just want something really glistening and something really shiny, a really bright sort of pad. So that works perfectly. So if I just solo that down here. And there you go, it's just that. But at the moment, it's where it comes in here. I'll put the kick on. Sorry, the rise. There you go. And then, so that's a straightforward pad. So as I say, the chords are really positive and uplifting. They're really sort of nice and uplifting. And then the next thing to do was to get another pad underneath, which was down here, which comes from the Cobalt, and that's a free synth, and it's just a straightforward lower octave, and it's just a straightforward pad. I've took away the bottom end, if you can see here on the screen. Just take away the mud so that the bass can fit through. And let's just get a little pattern going here, where I put that on, that, and the pads. And they're exactly the same notes on each pad. Just one's more shiny and bright, the other one's more lower down in the mix, just as you know, texture padding. And then obviously there's the bass line, which is from the Z3TA again, but it's a really nice subby sort of bass. It's called Hollow Man, but it's not hollow at all. It's got a nice sort of proper old school hardcore sort of feel to it. So it's, and it's just 3 notes. All the bass line is C, G, and F. Those 3 notes there. So if I was to solo those, that's all it is, those 3 notes. Put the pads on. Okay, so that's that. That's the bottom part of the track. You know, that's the bedrock of it. And then onto the lead line. Now the lead line is from the Z3TA again, and it's called Timeless Plucks. And if I take off the arpeggio, it goes like this. And it's just 3 notes, the same 3 notes, C, G, and F. And then if I put on the arpeggiator, so what I did was I grabbed an arpeggiator, the classic up, down, 8th, style up and down, swing 16, gate 50, and then the rate at 116. So I just messed about the keys, pure improvisation. And there you go. That you've got your bleep loop. You know, your sequence. And if I hold it down, it's just, that's all it is. Put that on with the pads and the kick. I put on a ping pong delay. But what I've also done with this is I've filtered it. So there's some filtering going on in there. If you can see the 2 cutoffs. And that it's just taking it up and down through the tracks, just to give it a variation and give it a bit of dynamic. So put on the other pad, and we have this. Put the sub on. And there you go. So that's that. So as I say, the sound is the pattern itself is just there. Look, that's all it is with nothing special. 3 notes. 3 is the magic number. So next up then is when the track goes over into the next section. And obviously I've got the snare roll in there. And the next part is the sample pads, which is from the M1, the Korg M1. And it's a famous sample pad. It's a famous rave sound, that is. Now what I did was I just put in the C, and then dropped it down to the lower G. On top of the chords, on top of the pattern of the lead line. So if we go the lead line up. Pads. It's all coming together. And I side-chained it as well, if you can hear it. It's now side-chained. Just in that section. That's why I mute this, so that I can play it naturally over here without any side-chaining. So it has more of an impact. When the kick comes in, that's when it sidechains. And that's where the filter comes. See the filter dipping down, back up. you go. So that's that section. So that's the main body of the track. They're the main elements. But then in between the track, they've got little tiny, more blippy sort of patterns. And the first one is this one from the Tau Noisemaker, which is... And again, all I've done is just improvised with the notes over here like this. And that's from the Tau Noisemaker, which is called Pulse Train. The FM Pulse Train, which is that. Take the harp off, and it's just that. And I've just done a down up and a straight groove, 116 55 gate, and that's it. I put some ping pong delay on it, cut the bottom end out so it's more top end, and that's it. Put that on with the pads and the bass. And there you go. So the next thing then is the intro of the track is this, and it's called the Vollenwinder on the Ragnarok, which is a free synth, a sound called the Vollenwinder. And this is there's no arpeggio on this. I've just muted it for this one. And this pattern here, 3 notes again. It's the same 3 notes. So if we're going to go like this, it'll go. Let me just get the right sound. This one. Three notes, C, G, and F. And that builds up with the pad, obviously, on this bottom pad here, which is the Cabal pad. And you just fade them in. All I've done is fade them in. So if we get the volume up, you can just see it coming in. It just fades up. And I think I've done the same to that one. I'm not sure. No, that's just the same pattern. And then the lead line. And just chopped it out. Filtered it in. So that's that bit. So that's the intro and the first part and the breakdown and so on. So we've done that bit, and the next part we've got is a sound called the Angel Choir, and this is a pattern I put in here. And I've taken this to audio because it was killing my CPU, and I'll show you where it comes from in a minute. It's still, even there, it's still quite gritty, because I've never really mixed it down. This comes from a synth called the Locomotive, and if I show you this now, it's a really good, solid sort of analogy synth. This thing, you know, a VST analog thing, and it's brilliant. And the sound is there, Angel Choir, and all I did was I just did the same notes, you know, where I just play those riffs with the notes. And I just messed about, just improvise it. Great little sound, but as I say, for some reason on this track it was just eating the CPU. So I bounced it over to audio, and that's just a little pattern there, which is that. And on top of the blip, and the next thing is another sound off the Ragnarok, which is the Vollenwinder again, but this time I've put an arpeggiator on it, and it's a C major walk 16th grooved, which is swing 16, chord trigger, 50 gate if you have to, 53 I've left it on, but it doesn't matter, and 1/16. And this one, this time, instead of it being do-do-do-do, I've put the arpeggio on. And again, completely improvised over 2 octaves. Hold the note down, just as that. But you play it, I've put in a little pattern here, look, and you can just see the notes. I'll just open the notes up. And there they go. Depends how long you leave the length of the value of the note that it plays, because I've done it in short stabs. See what I mean? And back round again to the original lead. that, and then the track goes into a little bit of a drum solo sort of thing here with nothing, just except 909 and the kick. And I just wanted it to have a little bit of a break there, and then it comes back in here with the pads and the bass, and a different variation on the crashes, on the claps. Sorry. So I just did a little bit of a pattern on the claps, changed it around there, made it tighter there, and then back in again. The Angel Choir. And there you go. That is it. 2 chords. 3 notes on the riffs, and the same for the bass line, and just combining those sounds together to make a classic modern day bleep sort of record. I hope you enjoyed that. What I'll do, if anybody wants this M1 pad sound, which is the, I've put it in the drop down of this description, and you can just download it from there and stick it into, it's just a little wave, and you can stick it into your simpler, whatever you want to do. I've got mine in a simpler. And you could use it for different things also. Go down octaves. Or higher up. Whatever. So yeah, so you can use that. So let's just go through everything again. A quick recap. A kick on the drum racks. The drums that I've used predominantly are all from the built-in kit core. The core kit of the 909s, which are built into Ableton. The Ragnarok synth is free, so you can download that. The Ragnarok, look for that. The lead arp and the bass line are from the Z3TA, which you have to pay for. And the pads are Z3TA. The blip sound is from the Tower Noisemaker, which is again free. You can get hold of that quite easily. And the bass is from the Z3TA, and the other pad, which is the Cobalt. And that again is a free synth, which is really worth getting because it's got some good generic sounds on there. And the M1 pads, as I say, I'll put it down in the drop down for you in a minute. So yeah, that's it. That's how you make a modern day bleep record. Hope you enjoyed that. Any questions you have, just email me or leave a comment in the comments box. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.